Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Greet the Week. I'm Jan Moray, and I'm with my co-host, Mona Duncan, and we have several of our regular guests on today. And welcome to our guests who are here with us live, and to those of you who listen to us after the fact. We appreciate you very much. The topic for today's broadcast is either or, as well as both and. So, Mona, how can we do both?
Right. Well, life is complicated. And there is north and south, east and west, up and down, love and hate. I mean, there's all these kinds of opposites, and we can think about them in the extreme, but often we fail to realize that they are also in increments.
Okay.
And so as we can become aware of the increments and how it's affecting us then and there, maybe we can make choices that can help us have, a happier life, more contentment, less stress. And that we live in a dualistic world, as in the north, south, east, west, the hot, cold, all that kind of stuff. We live in this dualistic world. But the more neutral we can become about all of those dualities, the more whole we can be, because we just kind of embrace them. Because in one entity is a little bit of everything, and as in some recipes may have more of this than another. But if you're making a cake, there are some ingredients that's in all cakes.
Right.
And so it's mixing up the ingredients in different situations, but doing it consciously, on purpose, and realizing the fact that it's there so that we can kind of look for them. And so I was thinking about this last week, the both and sometimes the promises we make to ourselves, and then we break them, and all this kind of stuff, and just looking at life in general and how it plays out. And I had a real busy weekend coming up. And I waited until late afternoon to go get groceries. I had cooking to do for, the upcoming events. And I was on my way. And in our area, there are 3 major places that the roads are in major repair, the interstate and other roads. And then it was also later in I had at one time made a promise to myself that since I have resigned my work job, my daily job, that I do not have to go to the grocery store on Friday afternoon. And here it was Friday afternoon, and I was going there. And I'm thinking, I'm not. I'm going home. I'm going to get up early in the morning. I'm just going to relax, work in the yard, play with the kittens, get up in the morning. And although I have a lot to do tomorrow, if you can kind of compact it and put it more in order, it'll all work out. So I get up Saturday morning, and I had a coupon that expired the very next day, which was for a free coffee at McDonald's. So, hey.
You got to take advantage of those coupons.
That's right. Have to take advantage of those. So the drive-in was exorbitant and traffic everywhere and all this. So I said, well, I'm just going to go in, but the inside was also full. But again, it goes back to, we can't have it all, that I'm so special, that I deserve this. And so if we make those choices, we need to live with them and be okay with them. So anyway, I said, well, I'm just getting coffee, so it won't take that long. So a lady was standing there placing her order, and as she placed the order, well, there was 3 people there, they were all together. And as she placed the order, other people kept walking up, and it was grandchildren or children, and changing their order, and they wanted to add this.
See where this is going.
Yeah. And they were speaking, the others that were giving input were to the lady that was placing the order. The others that were giving input was in a language I was not familiar with. But, and so they were talking back and forth and making it, and it took a few minutes, okay? Mm-hmm. But whenever it finally came time for the cashier to tell them how much it was going to be, all 3 people standing there instantly reached in and pulled out their credit card.
Oh.
And the one that was giving the instructions, there was this little banter back and forth, no, no, no. And anyway, the lady turned to me as they were leaving, as though she was going to explain what was going on. And I said, you know what? That was a universal language that has parents and grandparents and kids and so forth can read. I said, no explanation needed. I just thought it was really, really, really neat. Anyway, so I placed my order, and then I stood in line again, standing in line. And the gentleman was there, and I walked over there and I said, there's a line for him here. And he said, yes, I've been here for 30 minutes. I like to say things, kind of think them through myself, and to say something that might help someone see things in a different way without coming across as being a know-it-all. And I just thought about that, and I said, the more I think about life and learn, I realize that I am a part of creating my own stress. And I could just see that, man. It's just like there was it's just like you kind of took a breath and, yeah. When I can get real honest with myself, I realize that it wasn't necessarily all of this other stuff that I went here instead of there and all that. It's the fact that I am creating part of my own insanity of going to places that are, yeah. And kind of led me back to the fact that I'm not going to the busy grocery stores at 5 o'clock on Fridays anymore. I don't have to do that. And sticking to that. And even if I do, if there's a circumstance that needs it, to go there with an attitude that this is a part of the duality of life, that there are some people that need to come at this time, and could they come at this time and endure the stress in a way that is not stressing?
Which we accept that what the time of day is, and to understand that others are in the same situation as you are, and this is the only time that's convenient to go, and just accept that and deal with it.
Right. Because when we can accept the fact that, we're all strugglers, and that when we carry our little stressors or that whatever in solidarity with others, how much easier it is to bear, and we don't have to stand there and complain about it, because who really wants to hear it anyway?
Right. Unless you want to commiserate, unless you find somebody who wants to complain about it as well, and then I guess they get some satisfaction out of doing that.
Yeah, but it's just knowing that we're all in this together, and that I can make choices. And I had a real big feeling that my order would call it faster than his order, because it was just a coffee. And so anyway, as they called, but it was right about the same time. He got his, and then they called mine right after that. And I said, choose to have a good day. And it's just that, and whether he thought about that, whether it made any changing or not, I have absolutely no idea. But it is realizing that sometimes we're just the creators of our own, our own problems.
Yeah. But how do you get people to really think about that and to accept that? Because back when I was doing my Facebook page, my mental fitness marathoners, I one time I put a thing in there about choosing to be miserable, and talked about how you can choose to be miserable. And this one guy on there, but he was a very negative person on there anyway. He just said, that's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard, and blah, blah, blah. He did a long rant about that. And, and some people just don't want to hear that. They don't want to think that it has anything to do with them, or that they have any choice in making their day better or not. So how do you get people to take that in and think about it?
Well, it's just saying something, and they may agree or disagree, but sometimes if you've heard it, we have this collective unconscious that Carl Jung talked about, and if we hear something enough, why do they have so many advertisements on TV and
Right.
radio and even, you can't even watch a YouTube almost. Well, you can eventually stop the ad, but they're there, what, to change our mind about something. So if we begin to do that, I think of John Wesley that said, do all the good you can by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to everyone you can. And if we just begin to advertise that, have it be a part of our demeanor, have it be a part of our greeting, choose to have a good day instead of see you later.
Yeah.
That it begins to resonate within our collective unconscious. And, we can have a part of that. We can have a part of that. And sending forth those, I will not be denied, sending forth those positive vibes. It's realizing, as Michael Todd says, I had been broke many times, but I've never been poor.
Yeah.
And it's changing that mentality.
Right.
That we can have lacks, but that doesn't mean that we are depleted. And often when we get in those situations where the traffic is bad, I know I just send out a prayer to everyone on that interstate that there's no road rage, that they will realize that, just to release that. And I can't help but think it does have an impact, and that it will, because the invisible is so much more real than the visible. I think of those atoms, those little atoms that you even need. We can't see them, but that little fist bump. Sometimes you'll bump with someone and somebody will go like that. I think of that atom like that. I drew a little thing the other day that was just like a little pin dot that represented the matter that's in the atom. Just a little. I don't have anything here to. Well, here it is. Just that little pin dot.
The nucleus of the atom.
Yeah, just that little pin dot of it. But once it's broken, so you do that little fist bump, and then somebody will go like that. Yeah. Well, I can see that once you, do something to break that little atom. Now, I'm not mechanically inclined as such, but I can just see that you see how it spreads out? Mm-hmm. It's just like the firecracker or the fireworks that explodes, and it's just nothing, and it just rains down sparkles from everywhere. Right. I think it's just like that as it begins to have enough of those. But the thing of it is, so much of that is within our choice. So that energy, we have that little fist bump, and the energy that we explode, is it going to be positive or negative? Is it going to be an energy that gives us the okay to sit there and wait out that traffic? Or is it going to give us the energy to honk and curse and do sign language and that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Seems like it doesn't take much energy to do the honking and the cursing, but it takes a lot of energy to have the positive attitude and accept what is.
It may not take a lot of energy to do that, but in the doing that, how much does it sap our energy?
Right. That's true. Yeah.
And as we can become aware of the fact that if I have a poor mentality, regardless of what it's in, I'm not just talking money. I'm talking life and enjoyment and peace and everything. Yeah. If I have that poor mentality, that not enough mentality, then I'm draining myself. I'm depleting myself.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking an overinflated ego that is more important. It's just realizing the fact that we're all stuck in this traffic together.
That's right.
We're all in this busy marketplace together. We're all in this demanding world together. We're all in this multi-political world together. How can we handle it? So that we
I guess it's also thinking of what what this is keeping you from doing. Like, I'm stuck in traffic and I'm on my way home from work, and this is keeping me from getting that beer that I want, that cuts the edge off at the end of the day, or I'm just on the way home and I'm understand that it's Friday afternoon and there's a lot of traffic and this is just the way it is, and I'm just going to make the best of it. And then when I get home, I'll be grateful that I made it through the traffic and I'm home and I can enjoy my family. A lot of that has to do with how you're thinking about it along the way.
Yeah. And if we can reprogram ourselves to begin to think of, rather than I'm missing out on that, how can I just take a little minute here to actually breathe deep and to get in touch with my wisdom heart, to really think things through. I have a couple that I'm working with, and I sent them a note. Anyway, I said, thinking of you two and looking forward to our time together Wednesday. Please think about and write down the possible thinking errors of the past 2 months, because, something had happened there. Please think about and write down your possible thinking errors of the past 2 months and what insights you have received regarding a course correction. You know what? That's what we could do while we're stuck there.
Yeah, that's what we could do. Start thinking about our course correction.
Our own thinking errors. And how did my thinking error cause me to say ugly things or do ugly things or just dismiss someone? And how could I have a course correction there? And realizing that thoughts become things. Or negative we think, the more negative we become.
Right.
And
I was reading something the other day talking about, how our thoughts generate our feelings. We think a certain way and then we end up feeling that way. But if we keep thinking those thoughts, then those feelings become the norm for us. And even when we're not thinking those negative thoughts, we're still, the feelings now precede the thoughts, because you've now training your brain to think that way. And so you're starting to think those negative feelings or feel those negative feelings, and then the negative thoughts follow. And so in order to break that cycle of, which came first, the thoughts or the feelings, is to change the thoughts and to say, how can I change the way I think about this situation so I'm no longer annoyed about being in traffic? Because everybody knows, traffic is bad, and so we're supposed to complain. I mean, Austin is one of the worst cities, I think, in the States for traffic, and that's just the way it is. You're going to go out there and you're going to get stuck in traffic, and it's going to be a bad thing. And so if we keep thinking those thoughts, then every time we get in the car, we automatically start thinking, oh, the traffic's going to be bad. And so maybe there's another way we can think of it so it doesn't pull us down.
Yeah. Greg Braden, in looking at conscious creation, gave 20 codes, and I had this here on my desk, so I stumbled for it right quick. Code 5 is the act of focusing our conscious awareness as an act of creation. Thoughts become things. It's what you're just saying. If we think negative, we, go down that trail. Key number 6 is that we have the power we need to create all the life changes we choose, but sometimes we don't give ourselves credit for that. Point number 7 is the focus of our awareness becomes the reality of our world. So when we are negative, we begin to see everybody else as negative also.
Right.
It becomes the focus of our world. And then key number 8 is to simply say that we choose a new reality is not enough.
Right.
Not enough. And I love point 9 is that we have to feel it. Goes back to those emotions. And if it's that anger of being stuck in traffic or being told no or whatever it is, as we begin to feel that, then that's going to take us down. But as we begin to, feeling is the language that speaks to the collective unconscious. it's the language that speaks to thoughts becoming things. And
well,
as
you can feel that energy. You can feel the energy of the feelings, the anger. I mean, you know it when you walk into a room and two people have been arguing, whether you heard them, even if you had never didn't hear them, you walk in there, you can tell because the air's just thick. But then you can also get the positive energy when people are excited. I mean, like if you've ever been to a championship ball game of any sort, you walk in and there's just so much energy, so much excitement.
Yeah, that's what I want some of that too.
Right.
Yeah, well, we have the capacity as we feel those feelings in that, realize it's an era feeling, it's a down feeling. And again, that's not to say it's not magic, but it is a mystery how things can begin to turn around, that this was not good, that it wasn't as bad as I'm making it be.
Yeah.
And it still is. This is the reality right now of being stuck here, or being, but again, it goes back to the fact that as long as I don't get stuck with that feeling, I realize that the sun will come up again tomorrow. That things do change. That it's not always just this one reality, because there is not only that north and south, but there's a lot of increments in between.
Yeah, everything is on a continuum. It's always not always just one side or the other side. There's a lot right in between. A lot of places in the middle you can be.
And on making sense of it, tomorrow I'm going to be doing my tribute to Dr. Glasser and some of the things that I specifically learned from him, and or the interaction and how it influenced me. Mm-hmm. And I'm beginning to see more and more. I mean, not to just see, but to really understand his philosophy of, forget that, I'm somewhere else now.
Oh.
The books that he had written before, he says, I've moved past that. I want to take you with me to where I am now.
Yeah.
And he left us before he got to the point of letting us see that. But again, the more I read what he was saying, the more I can see that he was saying things in this new reality, in this divine matrix. He was saying things in this code that he just didn't have the language for.
Mm-hmm.
That the philosophers and the so forth. So our time is nearly up. You have more thoughts to say?
So what are we doing? Either or both and? We're doing both, either or and both and. So does it kind of change with the circumstance? Does it or are they always both there?
They're always both there. Mm-hmm. That even when you choose the anger, it doesn't mean that someone can't say something that would snap you out of it. If we let them, if we hear them. And even if we choose the positive, that doesn't mean that there will not be bad news. It's really a downer. But even in that downer that might take you out of the euphoria, it doesn't have to take you down to, it's beginning to realize that life has difficulties. That life has roads that are under construction. That life has births and deaths. That life has circumstances we don't want to hear. That we can be broke but not in poverty.
Right.
That it is a both and. And it's both and at the same time, that we are dual. There's a duality within us. And as long as we are on this side of the grave, there's probably something we can do about it.
Right. There's always something we can do. Always something. It may not take us where we want immediately, but we can keep chipping away at it and get there eventually.
Yeah. So the fact that our true beliefs, deep down inside, when we listen to our wisdom heart, our true beliefs are displayed in what we do, what we think, what we draw to us.
Right. Right.
And it's realizing that we must become the very thing that we're choosing. And as we become that, then it's real and genuine.
Yeah. And that's the best place to be, is real and genuine.
Yeah. Although Zig Ziglar, you know, I loved him dearly, and he said, "Fake it till you make it." And sometimes
Right.
you need to do that.
Right. That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
Just go on in there and let's just see. Maybe you can do this.
Right.
And as we begin to ask a question, we take out as we begin to ask a question, it's like opening up this expanding universe. Can I do this? Instead of I'm going to do this, it's can I do this? I've been doing a whole lot of, well, I don't know if I should call it work as much as thinking on the the effective decision making.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I'm looking at the fact that instead of making all this, the willpower, it's realizing the fact that it is with our will that we make our choice. I will do this, I will not do this. With our will that we'll make our choices. But as we said, I will choose to.
Mm-hmm.
That right there, that gives us a little bit of oil. It's kind of, the choice is the secret sauce that oils the wheel.
Right. Better than I have to.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, Mona. And thanks everybody for watching. And we'll be here next week for another edition of Great Week.